Toro, Toro, come get me, you rose-mattered lout. Winny Newts Rose Matter Genuine, aka Matter Lake. Its pigment call number is Natural Red 9, 'cause organic's gotta be better, right?
Oh, you smell so delicious, just like a cup of Earl Grey tea. I could sniff you all day. Winny Newts, what are you doing to me?
Oh. That's because Earl Grey and Rose Madder both contain bergamot oil. I don't always drink tea, but when I do, I prefer it to be Earl Grey hot. Well then, Watercolor, Rose Madder, magenta, re-wet. It's made from the root of the madder plant. Imagine something like this, only a lot redder. Boy, can you imagine extracting color from this? Nobody else makes one this good, which makes Rose Madder Genuine a lone wolf. He ain't got any pigment peeps, but he got a hue peep, and that guy's been trying to replace him for 60 years. Winny Newts Rose Madder Genuine walks the road alone, and probably fades a little bit too, because he's not the most light-fast color. But it doesn't look like it's the most fugitive color either. This is a sample of Rose Madder Genuine exposed to the sun for 6 months, and here's the control sample. There's some fading, but not a lot. And all the independent testing would lead us to believe that Rose Madder Genuine is a super fugitive color. But Rose Madder Genuine is given a B permanence rating by Winsor and Newton, which amounts to Lightfastness 3. What's up with that? I think I got this. It's because the sun is another variable, and it doesn't shine the same everywhere around the world. In some places, it's brighter with more ultraviolet rays coming through, and in other places, not so much. Winsor and Newton, I am guessing, when they test their color, Rose Madder Genuine here, they're putting it in a fadometer, which is a machine that simulates ultraviolet radiation. So they have a constant stream, and it's not a variable all like it is all around the world. What they have is another control on their hands. And that's why you hear someone reporting in Australia and California saying that Rose Madder Genuine is super fugitive, while over here in the Midwest we test Rose Madder Genuine and the color doesn't fade quite as much. Okay, I guess that makes sense. Although us soul keepers are not learned scientists, so by all means fact check what that guy just said right there and see if it holds up, and if it doesn't, disregard. But it sounds reasonable when you put it that way. Now, are there any other variables we should watch out for when we're doing lightfastness testing? Yeah, you gotta watch out for the piece of glass you use, because if it filters out too much ultraviolet radiation, then the whole lightfastness test isn't gonna work out so well. Ultraviolet radiation kind of has to hit it, so it has the possibility of fading. Oh, that's a pretty interesting point. I don't think that's been a problem though, because my sample of alizarin crimson that I've been testing has faded pretty readily under the glass I've been using. So I think I'm doing all right in that area. I'm pretty sure that the amount of sunlight my area receives has been the reason why this hasn't faded quite as fast. Yeah, I remember that alizarin crimson sample. It's not doing so hot. It's also been out in the sun for almost a year. So that might have something to do with it too. Man, lightfastness testing is a tough nut to crack when you don't have professional equipment to do it with. Best thing you can do is to just try and eliminate as many variables as you possibly can before you do it. Well, anyway, enough of that. Let's see how Rose Madder Genuine mixes with my colors, because that's what we're here for, right? Of course it is!
Hello, Rose Madder, old buddy, old pal. We have quite some history, don't we, you and I? Yeah. And, well, actually, you have history with everybody. You're one of the oldest colors still available. Isn't that true? Of course it is. I'm hard-pressed to think of one that's older, except maybe burnt sienna. You... think about it. Rose Madder was in use around the time of Ben Franklin, and beyond that, in the time of Rome, and even in medieval Europe. Virtually every time period you can think of, Rose Madder was making the rounds. That's how old you are. You fogey. You're a fogey of a color. And you're kind of weak. You're not super high tinting at all, but you are fairly easy to re-wet, and I like that about you. You're kind of a dull magenta. Somewhere between a red and a magenta. Sort of like a alizarin crimson, but a bit more blue to the color. You do violets very well. And, oh, look at that strong color. When you get a nice tint like I've got here, it starts to look very fleshy, and when you get a high concentration of Rose Madder, it starts to do blushes very well, like you might see in someone's cheeks. I imagine this is why the color is fairly popular in portrait painting. But some people, a lot of people, have given up the color altogether because of its dubious qualities. That is, that it's so fugitive. And let's look at how it re-wets and lifts. My goodness. If I just re-wet this entire area, I can lift nearly everything I put down. Oh my goodness. This is kind of a joy to use. It's much, in some sense, it's easier to handle than the Quinacridone Rose is, aren't you? Yeah, you are. Oh, look at that. I'm lifting up all your blush. You're going to be a normal looking color if I keep blotting at you. Let's lay down a little bit more of you. There. I'll meet you halfway. We'll compromise the Rose Madder. There. Perfect.
To recap, Rose Madder re-wets pretty well. Not super fast, but not slow either. It re-wets, well, just right in my book, I think. It also has a little bit of texture to it if you look closely. It's not a really granulating paint at all, but it does have flecks of the original, I assume is the original root that was extracted from. Also, this is a very dull magenta. Well, not very dull, moderately dull. It's reasonably bright, and it lifts extremely well. That is one thing to keep in mind about this color. I love the way that it lifts. It is completely non-staining. If I re-wet it, I can lift the entire color, and that is another reason that I think it's still a very popular color. Yeah, cool story. How about we take a look at Quinacridone Rose now and see how it compares with that? Dude, I was gonna. You know me. Come on.
Quinacridone Rose, the only peep Rose Madder has, and, well, you're not much of one at that, 'cause you've been trying to usurp his throne ever since you arrived on the scene. You are a beautiful color, though. I really enjoy this. Oh, look at that. It looks very rose maddery, and well, that makes sense, doesn't it? That's why it's been replacing him. But just because it looks like the color doesn't necessarily mean that it's been a perfect replacement. As with any replacement, there's always certain trade-offs and compromises. And let me get a little bit more Quinacridone Rose here. And make it a little stronger. There. When you look at the two, you're hard-pressed to see any differences. I'll demonstrate in a second what the differences are. One of the differences is that Quinacridone Rose is a very high tinting color. And as such, you gotta dilute it with a lot of water if you ever want to make it manageable. It's a little bit like a phthalo in that regard. It's also a brighter color. Keep going. Work your magic there, Quinacridone Rose. Yeah. Show me what you got. Give us a little 1-2 taste of your color. That's good. That's perfect. Now I'm going to do the same thing I did with you, Rose Matter, and I'm going to pick you up for a little date, Quinacridone Rose. Get in my car and let's go. Oh dear. This might not lift. I don't know why I sound surprised. That was to be expected. Let's lift him a little bit, or let's wet him a little bit rather, and see if I can lift him then, like I did with Rose Matter. Can I do it? Can I do it? Are you gonna hop into the convertible? Are we gonna go to the sock hop? Are we gonna dance till our knee-high socks fall to our ankles? Maybe. Oh, it lifted a little bit. Lifted a little. But not that much. No, not that much. It stains a little bit more than the Rose Matter, but it's an adequate replacement, I think. If you want something more permanent, but don't mind the extra staining and also the lack of texture in a quinacridone, then this is a perfect color. I've been using a lot of this lately, and I have no complaints, really. Besides that, you're also cheaper. My wallet thanks you, Quinacridone Rose. Rose Matter, you're not a cheap date.
Ain't that the truth? Rose Matter Genuine is a Series 4 color. It's the most expensive it gets in a Winsor and Newton line, I believe. And then, how much is... Oh, what am I saying? I don't even need to look it up. Permanent Rose, or Quinacridone Rose, is a Series 2 color in the Winsor and Newton line. So, a lot cheaper. About the same price as Ultramarine, while Rose Matter Genuine is every bit as expensive as a cadmium or a cobalt. And I know why that is. It's because Winsor and Newton makes the color themselves.
Well, aren't they fancy?
Take it down a notch, dude. They're the only ones who make a version of the color worth using. It's the brightest Rose Matter Genuine available, and it's also the most light fast. It's also a Fugitive Series 4 color competing against a Lightfast Series 2 color. So... Alright, you got a point. Why don't we get back to things here? In case you're wondering which Quinacridone Rose I use Mission Gold's Permanent Rose.
That's real cool, baby. But today we're using Rose Matter. And the first color we're going to mix it with is cerulean, or cobalt yellow, whatever you want to call them. This is a classic mixture that every workshop painter, every old-timey painter has ever done. So I want to give it to you right now and show it to you. Show you what it looks like. Cerulean and Rose Matter combine, magenta and yellow. Well, if you've ever seen Quinacridone Rose and benzimidazolone yellow, you pretty much know what to expect. The only difference is that the color is going to be a little duller, of course. No, isn't that nice? Oh, look at that orange, that muted orange. Such a lovely, lovely orange. It's a little fleshy when you look at it, isn't it? Yeah. Like a blooming sunset, showering down on us. Let's get a little bit more cobalt yellow in there. Yeah. I want to show a little bit more of what that mix looks like. Oh dear. I may have shifted it a little too yellow now. Rose Madder, assert yourself, please. I really need you to. Oh, sometimes you gotta give Rose Madder a little encouragement, 'cause he's a little shy. He doesn't like to boast. He just likes to sit back and hang out with the other colors and play around a little bit. He's a good guy. He's fun to be around. But sometimes you gotta speak up for him, and it's tough when you gotta do that a lot. Next up, we got Cadmium Orange. You might notice that this is a little different from the palette I used when I was doing Cobalt Green a while back. Well, I decided for today, since I'm using Rose Madder Genuine, I'll get out what I like to call the Anarchist palette. And there's nothing really significant about it. It's just that the palette happens to include Cobalt Yellow and Rose Madder Genuine. I don't use this palette much these days, mostly because I've grown so fond of the colors that I have now. The palette that I've constructed with the Lightfast colors. I'm kind of surprised how much I really enjoy using all those Lightfast colors, but I still have these, and I like to play around with them now and again. And we've got a nice reddish orange here. This is a little fleshy too, isn't it? A little blushy. It's almost like someone went exercising for a little too long, and now they got to sit down, or else they're going to get too hot. Cadmium Scarlet, you're up to bat. I want to feel your warmth, and I want to see what you do with my Rose Madder. Just say that. Doesn't Rose Madder have such a romantic name, such a mysterious name, a bloody name? It's great. I think that I know that if I mix a little bit of Rose Madder Genuine, then this mix is going to lean toward a middle red. And I know that because when you mix magenta and orange red, you will get a middle red. It's going to be a fairly weak middle red, of course, but still, middle red, regardless. There. You gotta be careful mixing Rose Madder with all these colors, because Rose Madder, again, it's easily overpowered. I'm really doing a heck of a job selling Rose Madder Genuine, aren't I? Oh, it's a specialty color. Not gonna lie, it's totally a specialty color. Cadmium Red, wouldn't you agree he's a specialty color? Oh, I know you would. You might even say that you're a specialty color, because you're kind of expensive. Expensive colors are always specialty colors. These expensive colors are usually reserved for professionals who are looking for something a bit sturdier, a bit more reliable. Students typically use colors that aren't the most Lightfast, but a lot of students also use completely Lightfast colors that the professionals use, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong at all. It's just the way that things usually play out. Heck, I remember when I was a student, I used to use classical oil paints. If you've never used those oil paints, or if you're even an oil painter, they're not the highest quality oil paints. They're okay for what they are, but the budget Winsor Newton paints are of higher quality, I believe. I have a friend who looks down his nose at student paints like that, thinks that anyone who has any respect for their work shouldn't be using student paints. Well, I don't know about that. I feel that's a bit too elitist for my taste. I think you can do good work with student paints, but if you want to use professional paints, I'm all for it. You'll probably have an easier time learning, honestly, if you go straight for the good stuff. It's kind of like playing guitar. If you want to learn how to play a guitar, it's probably better to get the best thing you can possibly afford, or else you're going to be miserable trying to learn how to do your thing, and then you won't be motivated to do it, and then you'll never move ahead. Same sort of concept here. I have to say, I'm really impressed with the way that the rose madder is appearing against all these colors. It feels so warm and vibrant, doesn't it? Well, just because we switched to rose madder here, that doesn't mean that our colors are suddenly going to become dull. No. Rose madder is what people used if they wanted a magenta way back when. Paul Signac, he loved this color. And he especially loved mixing it with ultramarine. Oh, he loved purple. If you've never seen Paul Signac's work, you really need to see it. His watercolor paintings are so free and so beautiful, and he has incredible line work, and he has pure applications of paint. I've been chasing his style for 1.5 years now, and I still admire it. I don't think I'll ever stop. Oh, what a nice violet. Soft, shimmering. I really love that. Prussian blue, baby. Oh, you are gonna lift some weights. You are gonna Lebentar some paces. Prussian blue. You love to throw around your weight when you come across rose madder, don't you? Oh, I know what you're like around rose madder. You are not very nice at all. Every time I've used rose madder with Prussian blue, he's just been such a bully. Maybe he'll play nice today. Let's see what happens. Oh. Well, it looks like the light touch helped. I highly recommend a light touch with Prussian blue if you're going to use rose madder genuine with it. And again, another beautiful violet here. A very low-key muted violet. Sort of like when you mix phthalo blue with a quinacridone. It's sort of the same color, it's just duller by a few degrees. This is a very good shadow color, similar to, say, the indigo offered by Da Vinci, the one that's mixed with Prussian blue and Quinacridone Rose. Duh. Uh-oh, we're coming up on the mixing, or not the mixing, but the visual complement of rose madder, cobalt green. And I know it's the visual complement because, well, rose madder is more or less the same hue as Quinacridone Rose, and when you have a similar hue, you're going to have a similar visual complement. The visual complement of Quinacridone Rose is cobalt green and viridian and phthalo green. It's not a perfect visual complement, but it's very close. Magenta, the complement of magenta is roughly green. Now, let's see, rose madder, how do you stack up when you come up against cobalt green? What happens? Are you able to stand up to him? Do you shy away? I'm interested to find out. Oh, you two are about almost evenly paired, I think. Yeah. You two, when you combine, you mix a nice silvery gray. Leans toward violet. That's very pretty. Thanks, guys. Now, sap green. I have a feeling you're going to be a bit more of a mixing complement with rose madder. It's just a hunch. I don't know if it's really going to work out that way, but we're going to find out. What do you say, rose madder? Do you think you can climb up into the tree here and swing from the branches. Hang a little rosy Christmas lights from it. Throw a party up there. Drop me down some coconuts while you're at it. Well, it's sap. Who am I kidding? There ain't gonna be no coconuts up there. That's silly. That's just silly. Yeah. This is a bit more of a compliment. I think I need to add a little bit of blue to make a violet if I want to get a compliment out of this. A mixing compliment, that is. But that's still very interesting. I'm getting some nice browns here. They're very burnt sienna-ish, I guess you could say. That was interesting. And speaking of burnt sienna, why don't you hop into the ring here, put your gloves on, and let's give him the old 1-2. Switching back to this core burnt sienna was the right thing to do. It's so much more yellowish than the Daniel Smith burnt sienna is, and I find that to be so much more burnt sienna. The red burnt siennas, they're a little too Venetian red for me. Too red iron oxide. That happens sometimes. A lot of the burnt siennas have become red iron oxide. I should make a video about that sometime. That might be interesting. And, well. Burnt sienna has made my rose madder downright earthy. This is a good way to tone this color down if I don't want to take it too far green. I like that. Yeah, you're doing it the way I like, burnt sienna. Oh yeah. Make it work. Ooh. That's good. Man, two great tastes that taste great together. Burnt sienna and rose madder. Making reds work for me. Quinacridone gold. This is going to be such an interesting flesh tone color. I love using quinacridone gold for flesh tones, and I just don't see that many people doing it for some reason. Maybe it's because there isn't enough texture to quinacridone gold, or maybe it stains too harshly, but it's such a good raw sienna stand-in that I'm surprised more people don't do it. Maybe I just haven't seen enough people doing it, but I think it's totally worth trying, and I really like what happens when you get rose madder into the mix here. The thing about it, though, is that quinacridone gold might have a tendency to overpower the color, but if we control it well enough, then everything will work out just fine, like it is right here. And maybe you notice that the orange that we're getting here is kind of similar to the one that we got with cerulean or cobalt yellow. It's a little duller though. The one with cerulean was slightly brighter. This one though is just right. Oh, flesh tones ahoy! Lay down the anchor, get the blue. We're gonna dull it down with a little cerulean blue. Speak of the devil. We just keep speaking of devils, don't we? It just figures that the flesh tone blue would be right next to the flesh tone mix. It's serendipitous, baby. Now, cerulean, you positively weak color, but you might be weak, but I like you. And guess what? Being weak is a virtue today, because you're going to be combined with rose madder. Aren't you excited? Yeah. I can hear him cheering down there in the paper. He's got a feel-good moment coming on, and let's get a look at this violet, this muted violet, slightly brighter than Prussian blue, but still oh so perfect. Oh, mixing this perfectly transparent magenta with this opaque color has brought me pure bliss. Color mixing bliss, baby. Oh my goodness. Rose Madder, you might be weak, but you mix so well with everything. I gotta hand it to you. Your transparency gives you benefits in spades. Oh, this color. And since I'm not using my cerulean maroon today, I jettisoned the crimson because Rose Madder is partially between a magenta color and a crimson color. I decided just to combine the two and use Rose Madder. So, to solve that little problem and take up this extra space we got here, let's use the traditional triad. The red, yellow, blue, non-staining triad. Except I'm not going to use cobalt blue this time. No, because I want to use cyan, magenta, and yellow. I corrected it. And today, I'm going to throw down my cyan. Pssh, cerulean blue. Enter the battlefield. And I'm going to throw down some magenta. Ooh, that got really strong, didn't it? Yeah, it did. Oh man, Rose Madder. You are asserting yourself right now, aren't you? And then, cobalt yellow. Oh, that's just... This is beautiful. This is perfect. That might not be a completely permanent triad, but... Oh, it's so beautiful while it lasts. Now, let's move the paper around and let them mingle. Uh-oh, the other colors are mingling too. What do you know? How do I feel about that? I feel like I need to give them a little bit of encouragement. Let's wet them a little bit. And get these colors mixed up. There. That's nice. Get a little cerulean in here. Get them all nice and mixed up. Yeah, I know. That's the purpose of this, isn't it? Let's get more cerulean over in here. More Rose Madder up in here. And more cerulean over in here. Da-dun, da-dun, da-dun. Yeah.
So, are you gonna keep Rose Madder Genuine around? You know, probably not. It's really hard to justify it when I've got Quinacridone Rose over here and he's literally a third of the price and he's totally light fast. I like him well enough, it's just that Rose Madder, he's really expensive and I burn through him really quickly, but I get more mileage out of the permanent Rose and I don't have to worry about him fading. So, really gotta go with Quinacridone Rose on this one. Well, then what was the point of this? Why wouldn't you just demo Quinacridone Rose? Well, a lot of people like him, and I thought it'd be good to give Rose Madder Genuine a fair chance and examine him as objectively as I can. Lame. Just take us out of here so we can get back to work. Alright. Well, everyone, that's Winsor & Newton's Rose Madder Genuine. It's a transparent, non-staining, non-granulating, low-tinting magenta. And it's kind of fugitive. I can't wholeheartedly recommend it for that reason, but if your work heavily relies on lifting, it might be worth investigating. But overall, I would have to say that you're probably better off saving your money and investing in more permanent Rose because it's a lot cheaper and it's a lot more light fast. Any brand will do, really. Well, everyone, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I really appreciate it if you could give it a like. And if you want to subscribe, hey, that's great. I'd love to have you. Or, if not, that's cool. I'll be back next week with a new video, of course. And I think it's going to be a nuts and bolts video. But I also have my last standard definition video to finish up. And it's conceptual art foolery number 7. Boy, it better be good after that build-up. Alright, everyone, I'll see you soon. Thanks again.